So as it says there, Michael Barton, I've already discussed with you really my history started in marathon running with Action Cancer back in 2014. Initially my interest with marathon running basically came around some colleagues and friends that were diagnosed with cancer and thankfully survivors of cancer, and that kind of spurred me on to try and do a bit of fundraising. Initially I looked at a number of options, and to be honest with you, the sort of atmosphere and the reception I got from Action Cancer was second to none. So I mean, I was sold on the plan to come to Action Cancer from the very first moment, and I think it was probably yourselves that were involved in those early conversations. So I swore blind after the New York Marathon 2014 that I would never run another marathon again. I had a bit of an experience at 22 miles after drinking excessive amounts of Gatorade, but time's a great healer, and I then originally came up with a plan to complete the 6 world major marathons, which in case you don't know is New York, Berlin, Boston, London, Tokyo and Chicago. So a lot of organising at that stage in my running career. I wasn't naturally or of natural ability to qualify, but more importantly I actually wanted to make it count. Fast forward a couple of years, 2015, after swearing blind I would never run another marathon, I found myself in Berlin, so that was 2 done, and then it just became a formality about getting around the rest of them. So on another year, suppose to make it a bit more personal, I lost my mother to ovarian cancer in 2016, and I committed to run 10 marathons in a year in her memory, of which I done Tokyo in the February, and quite quickly followed the rest 3 and finished the challenge really for myself in 2018 in Boston. But within those 10, I've also fundraised around different more local charity or events for Action Cancer. I think I'm maybe north of £20,000 raised over the 6 years or more than that. So you can see.
I'm like to the Arctic yet though.
So I also have another ridiculous and disgusting idea that I intend to run a marathon in every continent, which includes going to the Antarctic, which is another beast in itself. So in terms of the New York Marathon, again I was quite inexperienced when I went. What I will say is I did bring my wife along, because I think I probably wouldn't still be married if I'd have went without her. So I did use the non-runner option. In terms of the organisation, the support throughout both New York and since from Action Cancer has been second to none. I have done numerous types of events, from selling or balloting off football shirts signed by clubs. You know, people have been quite generous to me. Coffee mornings, all the sort of standard stuff, quizzes. It's more convenient now. Back in 2014 I was running about with sponsorships and but thankfully people have been quite generous, and I think the fact that cancer touches so many people in our lives, and probably us at some stage in our lives, is quite people are quite forthcoming with sponsorship and helping commit to that. So the practicalities of getting to New York, I mean, I'd never been in touch, I didn't know anything about the sports travel, but I have to say the two main guys, Martin in particular, they do make it so simple. They'll get you from Dublin, you know, they'll split over the 2 days, they will have a guide on each flight. They'll get you there, they'll get you to the hotel, take all the hassle out of it, which can be quite daunting when you're going, because all you're focused on is actually getting to the start line, healthy, fit, and well, let's be honest, getting to the finish line. But the thing I found with them was just very, very helpful. They get you the expo, they get you your race number, they do all that really difficult stuff. You just kind of go a bit of a sheep scenario where you follow along, so it takes all the pressure off. They also sit at the hotel and check everybody in to make sure everybody's back safe and well, which is a great a great thing as well. So from there, I went to every single one of the 6 majors with sports tours, and found it really useful, particularly when you're going across the likes of Tokyo and Asia and you haven't a clue from one end of the city to, or one end of the country to the other. So in terms of the actual marathon itself, I'm not going to say it's the greatest marathon in the world. I'm very much of the opinion that London's the best marathon in the world, but I like to determine that yourself if you ever run London. But it's certainly up there. It's not one of the world majors by mistake. Over 50,000 participants. There's something just special about that. It's the biggest marathon in terms of numbers in the world. And you can relate to a lot of the stuff quite similar to London. You know, you recognise a lot of the key sites. You're not running through Paris and industrial estates. You know, you're actually running through places you recognise. The support's incredible, particularly when you get to the 16-mile mark and you come off the undercarriage of the bridge and you turn left and sharp left again. And I've never actually heard a noise like it ever since. In fact, you don't appreciate it at the time. My wife took a video, and just the atmosphere and the noise that you don't hear because you're concentrating on what you're doing. But looking back, it was pretty spectacular. You do also get a phenomenal poncho, fleece lined at the end, which you'll probably need because it gets quite body temperatures drop. Hotel's fabulous, the medal's fabulous, and again, just to keep coming back to the fact that it's one of the 6 world majors, and if it doesn't spur you on hearing this, then maybe consider doing more than just New York. And for the benefit of those at home, this is the merch which I wore non-stop from the moment I got it back until I arrived in my kitchen. So Abbott's World Majors is also a great concept and great motivator to get out and do more and more stuff with them, and it led on to they now have actually like an age category where you can do you get more bling when you go into any of the world majors after you've got the 6-star medal. So really that's about it.
In terms of training, how did you train for your first marathon?
So what I would say is I'm being a veteran, I suppose, a self-diagnosed veteran. It's really just about time. You need to be giving yourself time. People do win marathons, and whether you run and I have done both before I get into this, you know, whether you're running between 4 and 5 hours or you're running sub 3, I can assure you that the longer you're on your feet, the harder it is. So, you know, in fact, to quote Ryan Hall, who's a world renowned athlete, his wife ran the Tokyo Marathon with us and did a presentation at the after party. And he has run a 2:08 marathon, but he's also run a 5:03 marathon, and he assured us that 5:03 was much more difficult than a 2:08. So don't be going under prepared. You need to be giving yourself at least 16 weeks, building things up slowly. That's how you avoid injury rather than panic buy. If you miss a session, let it go. There's no point trying to chase what you've missed, because you'll just overtrain and get yourself injured. So the key to this is the commitment will get you started, and the consistency will get you finished, and that's, I suppose, the key words that I would tell anybody. I'm also a qualified coach, so that's something that I discuss quite regularly with people. Consistency is key, but don't get caught up in trying to catch sessions up, because life gets in the way sometimes and it's going to be difficult. So at least 16 weeks. If you find you don't have 16 weeks, well then just prepare yourself for what is the actual plan. Have your goal. You know, not everybody wants to go and run a super fast marathon, but it's a massive achievement to get across that finish line. 26.2 miles is no easy task, so just prepare yourself as best you can. Nutrition's another thing. I've talked about my experience of Gatorade and 22 miles in New York Marathon and having to duck into 7-Eleven to try and sort myself out. My advice would be, you know, realistically the trainers you train in aren't really going to be fit for much by the time you get to the marathon. Give yourself an opportunity to wear great your trainers in. Don't be wearing for the first time on marathon day. Don't be wearing new shorts or new vest, or get yourselves used to it. Vaseline is a phenomenal tip, because no matter what you do and what you prepare for, you're going to end up potentially looking like a shotgun victim as you cross the line, which kind of spoils the look. When you look like you've been shot by a sniper as you've come across the
Your
line.
finish line photos.
Yeah, which is really important when you've travelled halfway across the world to do it. Don't be taking any nutrition that you haven't taken before. Get used to gels. I use a gel called Torque, which is really easy in the stomach. Other gels just don't sit well with me. Everybody has their own thing. There's powders you can buy. Find something that works for you. And if it doesn't work, be utilising those gels and different things that work for you, so you're confident on the day. You know what you're going to wear. You know what you're going to take for nutrition, because whether you think it or not, really at that 18, 19, 20 mile mark, you will hit what's known as the wall. It comes at a different stage for everybody, but ultimately it's just your body in the shutdown because it's running nutrition. I know you've both run marathons before, but particularly for people at home, and have your plan, for the day itself. If you're going for a goal or you just simply want to get round, the way I do it, I break it up into segments. I go for 10k, then I go for 10 miles, then I go for half marathon, and then we go for 18, and then you're at the 20, and then it's a countdown from there. So psychologically, you have to have a plan in your head, as well as your nutrition plan. So make sure you have the gels. Make sure you don't overeat the day before. A lot of people go out and eat these big massive bowls of pasta when you think, well, what do you actually normally eat at home when you're training, and you're eating 3 times the amount that you normally would. That's only going to end in disaster. So don't change anything that you're not used to, and don't introduce anything new. That's really how you get ready for the marathon, and then the marathon itself is the victory lap. All the hard work's done in the lead into it, so hold your head up high. In fact, I've done quite an inspirational one for London. On
For
the
London, I
WhatsApp
use that every year. You did that a few years ago, and I send it to them every year.
So, from memory, I could probably bring you around. New York Marathon, you're driven out, it's really simple. You get in the pen, you start running, you'll see all those fantastic landmarks. But really, for me, at any marathon, once you look down at your watch and you see you've gone over 20 miles, you're in the unknown at that stage. Everybody's in the same boat, whether you're running 2 hours 30 or 6 hours. You just have to count the steps down. But from that point on, the crowd gets you round. Use the crowd. As footballers would say, that the 12th and 13th mile get you through and get you to the finish line. And realistically, in the last sort of 5k, don't worry about how much your legs hurt. Everybody's legs hurt. Lift the head, pump out the chest, get close to that finish line, suck up the atmosphere, and get over the line and enjoy the. In Dublin, I always shout about how far to Guinness. In New York, it might be Budweiser or something else, but think about what's going to get you across the line, what you really want, and what you sacrifice probably to get you there. That's about as inspirational as I can be.
Yeah. No, you said about the sights and stuff. So last year in New York was exceptionally warm. Usually I'm telling people to take layers because you're going to be standing in the pens for quite a long time, and it was like 22 degrees in November. That added missing station. So one of the guys who ran it actually said to me, once I accepted that it wasn't getting a good time, I just ran casually, and actually it was a really good way to see the city. I looked up and was able to look around me and stuff. Once I accepted that I wasn't going to get a good time, because nobody was getting a good time like last year. So it was just another thing.
But that's another good point. We do get caught up in, again, regardless of what your goal is, you get caught up in looking at your watch and watching the road. You're in New York, so try and lift the head and take in a bit of as much as you can. Enjoy the scenery. But that's another good point, you know, is being prepared for that start, because you will be in the pen for 2 or 3 hours potentially, and it's a long time. You know, you want to try and find somewhere where you can sit down and prop yourself up, but also have some clothes that you're prepared to throw away. And also trying to get to the, as much as you can, trying to get to the nervous pee done and all those other things that you need to do before you head off.
What's the time between leaving the hotel and starting?
You're away really early.
Yeah.
You are, because you travel out, and I think from memory, now don't quote me on this, but
10 a.m. or something.
do you know, I think you're there for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah,
At the start.
the buses leave.
They just can't afford
Seven.
to take the chance that they don't get you there,
Yeah.
because obviously, like, any of the world majors or any major city, even Boston, which is probably the most organised system I've ever seen, because they drive you 26 miles out of the city to run back in, and they have every yellow bus in the state comes into Boston City to bring you out, and it's just like, it's a military operation, but you're still out at the start line for at least 3 hours, which is quite a long time. So again, think about maybe bringing a bit of nutrition or a banana or something like that you can actually, because you can end up starving before you set off, and fluids as well, but not overdoing it.
Yeah, the buses leave the hotel, or near the hotel, sort of 6 and 7 a.m. And breakfast isn't included, but there's places open at that time to do pre-marathon breakfasts near the hotel.
Yeah, there was, from my memory, there was a wee all night 24-hour kind of breakfast bar right beside the hotel, which
Yeah.
we went in and got porridge.
Diner.
Yeah.
It was very good.
And we're in the pecking order then, do they drop you in terms of the start? So obviously elite runners at the very start.
So yeah, it's like any other big marathons. When you talked about, you know, Dublin, you'll get into the general facility and you'll kind of be signposted to where your pen is. It's exactly the same thing. You know, there's one drop off, and then there'll be a bit of walking to actually get to your wave and your pen.
They would ask you what your expected finish time would be, isn't that right?
Yeah.
You have
So
to
you'll
declare
go
that.
into the say, if you're wanting to finish 3.5 hours, or you want to finish 4 hours or 2.5 hours, you'll go in alongside people who would sort of think that they would
Yeah.
finish.
And then they will ask you for evidence of that, and that's nothing to do with the organisers of this. It's more down to the actual New York City runners who
Yes, that's another. So
Because the pro runners go 10 minutes in advance, don't they?
yeah,
every marathon's different, but generally those somewhere between 5 and 10 nearly free to go out.
so if you choose to register, you'll register it through us, and we'll pass the details on to Sports Travel, and that'll be the package booked, as it were, and then you'll be contacted by New York Road Runners Association to set up your individual profile, and that's then like an online portal, and that's where you'll get like your running number, and you'll have to download that, and that's where you'll put in all of your personal details as to how what your expected time is. And things like that. That's where you'll get all the information about the exo. So there's a bit of admin then that'll come directly to you.
And then if like I'm considering bringing a wife as well, where's the best place for them to sort of?
Yeah, that is a good point. The year I did it was the year after the Boston bombing, and as I came in, and again it's worth looking at actually where you're going to meet up. There's a bit of it. I mean, you'll probably remember yourself when Central Park is, you seem to have to walk forever. So you cross the finish line, but you're now in this confine, but your loved ones are outside. So there is an area where you sort of come out of the park and turn left up towards Trump Tower, and then there's, you know, you can meet at, you know, B or A, or you can plan to meet, but it's quite busy. So we had planned. In fact, I had seen my wife as I came in. Turned right into Central Park, but the issue I had was I was now on the opposite side of the road.
Yeah.
So it's worth doing, not to do lots of walking the days before, but have a bit of a recce to see how do you know, there are bridges under the road and stuff where you can actually, but I would suggest they know to stay on the left hand side so you can actually meet up with them, because otherwise you're and it's not like you can run across the runners, especially the year after Boston. They probably would have been able to.
And temperature wise,
It was cold. It was quite cold. It was quite cold the year I did it. That fleece sort of poncho was a godsend, but you are glad to get back to your hotel to kind of get out of the wet.
How far is the hotel? It's the same hotel that you always stay in, just a couple of blocks away from the finish line.
With sports travel, it's the way to see travel for years,
Yeah.
hotel for years, yeah.
You're probably looking at about 20-minute walk.
Yeah.
And the reality is you're not going to get a cab because it's
No,
just
right.
jam packed. So just be prepared for that. You know, so if you have somebody meeting you, you know, that you have a pair of tracksuit bottoms and some warm clothing to get on, and maybe something to eat to try and get you back to the hotel. But I recall it being about 20 minutes. 20-minute walk. Or probably 10 if you haven't just run a marathon. But it's at least 20. And enjoy walking up and down the stairs. You just leave the day before the marathon because it's not going to be that.
Any questions on the fundraising element or the costs or anything like that, or how it works? No, it's usually the bit that I get most questions on. So, well, yes. Any other questions for myself or for Michael? No?
Just generally, how many people would you expect to take over?
We usually have in and around 10. Usually have in and around 10. We had 8 last year purely because of the situation I experienced before. You know, in 2020 we were due to have 12, but 4 dropped out over the course of the 3 years, so they didn't get to go. People were saying I was 3 years younger when I signed up to do this marathon. But yeah, we usually have sort of in and around sort of 10 to 15. But you know, it's all part of it, as I say, sports travel openly sell to charities all over Ireland. So you know, there's big groups that go, and you know they have a rep at the airport that signs everybody in and makes sure everybody gets on. So you're most people come back and influence, you know, lots of people.
I take it you advise everyone to wear their running shoes.
Wear your
going there,
running
going
shoes,
back.
yes.
Going there.
Same as going there, yeah.
One day the sports travel always their instruction would be you bring your run gear and
Your
carry-on.
Yeah. And you get, you know, within the package you get check bag and buggies in as well, so that's all included, yeah. So yeah, so that's what the Action Cancer New York Marathon package is. So thank you all for coming along, and thanks Michael for coming in turn.